So I just made a video on smart light switches, which are switches that connect to the internet and let you control the lights in your house. And I explained how I think they're the best solution for smart lighting. You guys had a bunch of good questions, so I'm going to answer all of those, starting with this one, which is why are smart light switches the best solution? Why not just use smart bulbs? So let's get into it. So there are two reasons smart switches are so much better, but the first one is the most impactful. So smart home is all about adding functionality to your home and not taking it away. You want to retain both manual control of the device like you would expect to do in any other house and add the smart control at the same time. The problem with smart bulbs is if you install the smart bulbs in this fixture, you can't use the physical light switch anymore. Because if you turn that switch off, you lose the smart control because the bulb no longer has power. That means you have to either refrain from using the switch and lose that functionality, or when a family member or you do it accidentally, you have to go and remember to turn the switch on if you want to turn the bulbs on with your voice again. It's just not a seamless experience, and by having a manual switch being able to turn off the smart functionality just removes the whole idea of smart home altogether. Smart switches solve this problem because you can turn the switch on and off as well as control with your voice with zero compromises. The experience is the same, but it's just so much more seamless and allows you both physical and smart control. The second reason is it's usually just cheaper. So in a lot of cases, one light switch will control multiple lights. In this case, my bathroom has 3 different bulbs. I would need to buy 3 smart bulbs to hook up this lighting to smart lighting, or just one switch to control the dumb bulbs. Just makes more sense from a cost perspective. Another question I got is, what if the internet goes out? And again, that's another huge advantage of the smart switches. They work just like regular light switches, so if the internet goes out, just control it like you would any other switch. Third comment I got, which is one of my favorites, and for some people leave it all the time. What happens if the power goes out? Well, it's no different than any other device. If my power goes out, it'll kill my lights and my internet, sure, but it'd be no different if power goes out in anybody else's house. The lights turn off. Boo-hoo, comes back on. Next question is about neutral wires. So I explained in my last video that I have an older home without a neutral wire, so I need to use either the Aqara smart switch or the Lutron Caseta smart switch. These are a little bit more expensive and you need to use them if your home doesn't have a neutral wire. If you live in a newer home and you have a neutral wire, you'll want to use one of these things, the Meross switch. They're quite a bit more affordable. To identify if you have a neutral wire, you're going to need to take your switch out of the box and see how many wires there are sticking out. So if you only have 3 wires or even 2 wires, a white wire, a black wire, and then a copper or green wire, you have no neutral wire. Just 2 switch wires and a ground wire. You need to get one of the no neutral switches, either the Aqara one or the Lutron Caseta. If you do have a neutral, your box will look something like this. So you'll have 2 wires going to the switch, as well as the copper or green wire for ground, and then there'll be a separate white wire. This is usually just capped off. Sometimes it's multiple wires in a bundle. If you have one of these bad boys, you have a neutral wire, and you can use the much more affordable neutral wire switches like the Meross ones, which I love. Anyway, that's Smart Light Switches 101. Hope that helped. Thanks for watching. Watch out for the next video. Bye.
Turning my old 1980 apartment into a state-of-the-art smart home. Part 3.
So today we're going to get started setting up smart lighting, one of the most common things that people mess up in their smart homes. We're going to do it room by room, and today we're going to start off in the bathroom. So the lighting setup in this bathroom is super simple. We have a light here and it's controlled by these light switches. This switch here also controls the fan, and we're going to swap that out as well. And because of this bathroom's layout where we have this second door going in the bathroom, I also want to add another switch here, and I'm going to show you how to do that really easily without having to do any electric wiring whatsoever. Okay, so for smart lighting, no matter what, in any case, if you can, you should always look to use a smart light switch. They're usually more efficient from a cost perspective, and they retain manual and smart control over your home. In our case, because we live in an older home, and if you live in an older home with no neutral wire, you have 2 options. This, which is called the Lutron Caseta, arguably one of the best options. It has a dimmer, requires no neutral wire, and works great. However, there is another new boy on the market, which is the Aqara no neutral smart switch. This guy is quite a bit cheaper. It doesn't have a dimmer. It does need a hub, but it does work really well. We're going to install the Lutron switch for the lights and the Aqara switch for the fan. So let's get these bad boys wired up here, and then I'll show you how we're going to set it all up. First things first, and doing electricity, breaker always goes off. Now we're going to wire these bad boys up. Just follow the manual. Make sure you stay safe while doing it. It's a pretty easy process, and you shouldn't let yourself be intimidated by it. The only other thing you'll need to consider is if you don't have a more modern Decora style wall plate like this on your switches, and you have these standard toggle ones like I do here, you'll need to get one of these to fit over the switches. Let's do it. And just like that, we're all hooked up. We've got lights here that are on the Lutron dimmer. And then we also have the Aqara button here that controls the fan. Pretty easy. Now you're probably wondering why I use 2 different brands of switches and it looks kind of clunky. There are 2 reasons I did that. The first is the dimmer setting doesn't actually work very well when you're working with the bathroom fan. However, I wanted it on the lights. But the second is I wanted these Lutron switches because they come with a very specific accessory, and that is this Pico remote. Basically what this thing is a wireless remote that pairs with the respective smart switch. You can get a whole bunch of them, and when you press the respective button, so lights off here, it will control the lights at the same time. Same with lights on. Pretty sick. And even cooler, these things come with a little wall plate so you can mount them on the wall and have them look exactly like a light switch. That's what we're gonna do here. So this is the little wall mount. I've added some adhesive on the back. We're just gonna put it up there. It then has these screws so you can screw a regular old wall plate into it, and it'll look just like a second switch. And just like that, without any wiring whatsoever, we've added a second switch into our bathroom, and the bathroom lighting is now complete. If you're in an older house like I am and don't have a neutral wire and you're wondering which one of these switches to pick up, I'll link to them in both of my bio. The Aqara is by far the lowest price option. They both require a hub, but the Aqara one is a lot cheaper, and the Aqara ecosystem is a lot larger as well, and there's more products that you utilize. However, the Lutron Caseta has two huge advantages. One, like I said, it has the dimmer, and two, those Pico remotes are really useful for cases like adding that extra switch like I did, or if you have three-way switches in your home. If you're in a situation where you have two light switches controlling one single light, or even three light switches controlling one single light, you have what's called a 3 or a 4-way switch. In those cases, those Pico remotes can really cut down the cost of having to buy extra switches. I'll actually have some videos covering how that works when we do the hallway lighting. Anyway, you can find both those switches in my bio. Like I said, tune in for the next episode when we tackle more smart lighting and more smart devices. Bye.